again to another edition or session of semester, of Trimaris Duke University. As with all the fall semesters, we have a guest professor from another kingdom. I have the great pleasure to introduce Duke Dog, who has a last name which I can't pronounce.
Just like it's spelled. Thorgrimsson.
Thorgrimsson. Duke Dog Thorgrimsson from the Middle Kingdom. Dog started the SCA. His first crown tourney win was for the 25th anniversary of the SCA. And yes, some of you were not alive then. I was looking at you.
I don't know. It's like,
and we are coming up on AS 50 next year. So, quite a healthy amount of experience in fighting. He is a 7-time crown tourney winner in the mid-round.
What was that?
almost 8.
Almost 8.
And could be again in the not-too-distant future.
So the legend.
In his long and distinguished career in fighting, he has made a name for himself, actually starting as a two-sword fighter, but extending into polearm, into sword and shield, and basically every weapons form the SCA offers. He is an expert with all of them. And we are very pleased and very honored that he was able to take some time and come down and spend some time with us today. So please give him your attention, and without further ado, Duke Dog from the mid-round.
I get you guys to come a little closer, wrap around here a little better so that I can see everybody. So I'm loud, but I'm not that loud. Like I said, Doc, I've been fighting since 1981. It took me 10 years to win my first crown. I came in second 4 times before I was able to win. So I may not be a prodigy like some of the other guys in my rank, but my successes have more to do with hard work and staying with it than any particular talent that I might have been born with. Okay? So what I'm going to try and do today is convince you guys that no matter what your skill level is now, you can be that fighter if you learn the right way and do the right things and keep doing it. Okay? I'm not physically gifted in any way. I'm not tall, I'm not fast, I'm not particularly athletic. I got a perfect SCA fighter skill. Okay? Obviously, because after 35 years, this is what my build is, so it must be a pretty good SCA fighter skill. So, let's see. I'm trying to condense what is usually 5 classes down into a single seminar that kind of flows, hopefully holds together. So, I don't want to miss anything, so I'm going to keep referring to my notes. I hope you'll bear with me. Okay. First, thanks to Martin for calling me up and getting me down here. Thanks to everybody here who's been so nice to me since I've been here. Appreciate it. Okay. First of all, this class will not make you a better fighter overnight. Who expected that? You know better. Okay. And I can't tell you that I have this perfect jewel of a system that I'm going to impart to you, and you're going to take away from here a bunch of shiny new tricks that you go home and beat your friends with. That's not what you're going to learn here. What I'm hoping to give you is some more ways to articulate what you may already be doing, maybe a better, finer understanding of the mechanics of what you're actually already doing, so that you can improve it, refine it, and pass it on to somebody else. And hopefully make you a better fighter at the same time. A lot of this stuff you may have heard in one form or another from various teachers, because obviously we're all teaching you how to do the same thing. A lot of our knowledge is going to overlap. If I say it for the 5th time, 4 other guys have said this before me, it's probably worth saying 5 more times. If we're all saying it, it's good information. Remember it. and nod your head when you hear it again. That's good. Okay. We start out with first principles. Very first principles. For me, one of the first principles is learning the difference between skills and tools. Skills are range, precision, and timing. Those are skills. Those are things you can learn. Okay? Tools are reach, strength, and speed. You can hone your tools. You can't get taller. That would be a tough one. You can get shorter, but why? But your strength and your speed you can improve. Okay? But they are tools. Everybody is born with a different tool set. And you can use those to your advantage if you know how to take advantage of them. Okay? But tools, to me, are less important in this game than the skills. We don't really tax our endurance in our sport. Otherwise, we wouldn't have guys built like me or Martin or, look around here. We've all got that protective layer going on, all right? So we're not really needing to be Olympic athletes to do what we do successfully. The best fighters are the guys who have honed their skills to such a degree, okay, that they can compete against a guy who's some 20-year-old guy who's incredibly athletic. So that's what I want to talk about today, is learning those skills, what they are, what the mechanics behind them come from. One of the analogies I like to use is woodworking. We're all craftsmen here. The craft we are pursuing is the fight. Okay? An experienced woodworker has skills. He knows joinery. He knows how to use the grain of the wood to accomplish what he needs to do. He knows how to use his tools. He knows the speed that saw is going to work best for him. Okay? Those are his skills. Now, a good woodworker will keep the best tools he can in his shop. But you give a skilled craftsman mediocre tools, he will still turn out fine work. You give you take a mediocre craftsman into the finest shop in the world, and he's still going to turn out mediocre work. So, hone your skills, improve your tools if you can. All right? Another thing I want to get into here, or stay away from kind of, is style. I'm not going to teach you my style. I'm not even sure what my style is. Okay? Everybody has a style, and everybody's style has been a series of decisions and compromises based on their tool set and where their skills are at a given moment. Does that make sense? Does that fall into line with kind of something you've already thought of? Right? Okay. So that's how this class is going to work. Now, one of the first things everybody talks about, we're going to talk about it too, but we're talking about skills and tools. That speed is one tool. Anybody here who's been fighting less than a year? Anybody here who's been fighting less than a year? Why do you lie? You've been fighting less than a year? Anybody else? How long have you? How long? 2? Or you 2 guys can do it. Okay, well then let's look forward. We're going to want to race forward. And we're going to race over that 5 seconds. Okay? This one ready? Says don't move. This is how their bodies think they can move fast. That's pretty much your stance. We're very close to it. So show me where you stand. When you normally fight, or you fight away, See, there's always one. Is that pretty much your stance? Good. That's important. Your stance should be as natural as walking. You should be able to drop into it without thinking about it. You should be able to use it and balance on it without any conscious thought. You shouldn't have to be thinking all the time, where are my feet? Where are my... Although I want you to start doing that for me now. So, everybody starts with stance. Every trainer everywhere starts with stance. Why?
Foundation.
Foundation? Foundation, that's kind of a nebulous term. What is your, okay, what's your foundation? What's your foundation do for you?
Base. It's your firing platform.
Firing platform. That's an interesting way of putting it. I'm going to go even more basic than that. Your stance is your interface with the ground. How many times you heard your power comes from the ground? Well, that's true. What that really means is you need something to push against to deliver power. The only thing handy is the ground. The only thing we've all got working with us is the ground. Gravity is a constant for all of us. Okay? So your stance is what allows you to push against that thing. Fighting in zero gravity is a very, very interesting thing. Most, or like hockey, fighting in hockey. You can't fight in hockey until you grab the other guy, because now you've got something to push and pull against, right? We use the ground. So how you stand, what kind of footwear you wear, is important to your interface with the ground. I wear Doc Martens, mainly because that allows me to fight indoor on gym floors. In the mid-round we do that, and I don't scar them up. But it also allows me to fight outside in semi-wet ground without soaking through my turn shoes in the first 5 minutes. Because I hate it. Okay? So. Okay. If your stance doesn't allow you good traction, it's not working. Your stance should provide a light but relaxed tension in your legs. Right? You should feel something. You shouldn't have your knees locked and your legs relaxed. You can't move from there. Everybody here, bend your knees. Everybody's got their knees bent. I see a lot of guys who stand up pretty tall in their stance, but I know their knees are not locked. Because they shouldn't be. If they could, if they were, they couldn't move. If you lock your knees, you actually have to shift your weight to one foot or the other to move. Slow. So the light tension in your legs allows muscles in your legs to engage quicker than if they're relaxed. But if you're too deep, your muscles are too over tense. You can't move that way either. Okay, so you've got to find that position where there's a little bit of tension, where you're still relaxed, but you can move easy. Okay? Everybody heard this already, right? Okay. Like I was saying before, every style is a compromise and a decision point, right? Very linear stance, almost a fencing T stance. Okay? Are there any advantages to this?
Yep.
What?
It's linear. You have lots of balance forward and back.
Exactly. That's more linear your stance is, the quicker you can move backwards and forwards, because you're pushing against the ground, right? So you want to have whatever you're pushing with behind the direction of motion. You can get more power because that's, we'll get into that later, you're pushing your weight forward, your weight goes into power. Okay? So there are advantages to that. What are the disadvantages?
Lateral movement.
Right, you have no lateral movement until you shift which side you can push against. Right? You also lose range. That's about how far I want to reach without really overextending myself and getting my knee twisted up. Right? So you lose range when your shoulder's back here. I also, when I'm this linear, I have my arc, and we'll talk about this later, my offensive arc, the way I call it, is limited. Now I've got really an offensive arc of about, you've really got about an offensive arc of about 90 degrees. Everybody does. So my center line is here, my 90 degrees is over here. Somebody who steps off to the side of me, I've got no way to hit him. No way until I change my stance. Okay? So, there are advantages, but there's also disadvantages. How about this? It's exactly the opposite, right? So I've got great lateral movement, but I can't move backwards and forwards until I shift onto one leg and change my push. Does that all make sense, right? Now, where's my offensive arc? It's still 90 degrees, but now my 90 degrees is all in front of me. Right? It's not off to the side. So that's another advantage. So where's my stance? My stance is a compromise. Most everybody ends up in this kind of a 45 degree, because whether you realize it or not, you've compromised between lateral movement and forward movement, so you get some of the best of both worlds. I can still square my shoulders up, so I've got my offensive arc is still in front of me, right? I've still got good forward and backward movement, and I can do a little sideways movement. Not as good as if I'm squared up, okay? But I'm gonna compromise, and I'm also gonna compromise my range a little bit, because I can't quite reach as far as with this. But the advantage I get is it takes all of these targets pretty much out of range. Now, with this, sword leg forward. This seems to be very popular with some of the higher end guys now, and I see it trickling down into the beginning fighters. The advantage of this, the main advantage of this style is range. You have lots and lots of range. But now I'm exposing all of these targets, right? I'm taking away this target, which is a pretty good target for everybody. That lead leg, even with a shield on that side, is a pretty good target for everybody. Now I've now taken that away. And now I've got this one, and man, I'd rather get hit out here than in here any day. But this style will work. Another thing about this style, and I'll get into this generating the power out of it, is you really kind of have to torque your shoulder back here. Every guy I know who fights this way with any longevity, he's got the shield out here and his sword back here. And so his shoulders are twisted. This also kind of limits your offensive arc. If I'm all the way over here, I still can't throw a shot down. So now I've got my foot over here, my offensive arc is actually over here. Okay? So your style is going to be whatever your style is. What I'm trying to point out to you is advantages and disadvantages of each thing. And you can switch with enough practice. You can go back and forth between all of these styles. I will, given a different fight, given an opponent's particular weapon style or proclivities. I'll switch up to a right leg lead sometimes if I need that little bit of extra range. But I know what the disadvantages are, and I'm trying to be constantly aware of it. If I square up to my opponent, it's because I know I'm probably going to need to move sideways more than I'm going to need to change range. If he doesn't want to change range very much as a fighter, I can afford to be square, because now I gain a little range and I can move sideways. If I know he's not going to try and come back and forth to me a lot, I can use that. All right? Any questions? Depends on the opponent. You're going to hear that a lot. Some of it is, after a couple of passes, I will have learned something. Sometimes I can tell by his stance. He's very linear. I know he's depending on moving back and forth a lot. So I can afford to square up. Right? Especially if he's very linear, I can afford to square up and slide off to the side a little bit, because like I was saying, he doesn't have any offense over here. He's going to be constantly shifting to match me. So when is dependent on when I have learned enough to No. How quick my opponent teaches me that, I can't tell you. So that's as soon as I've learned from my opponent enough, I may or may not switch my state. And by the way, at any point, if I ever say anything where the term doesn't make sense or doesn't jive with something you've heard before, go, whoa, wait. Raise your hand, say something, because if it's not clear, if you cannot penetrate my wisdom, I need to know that because I'm trying to teach, and if you guys don't get it or somebody here doesn't get it, I guarantee you somebody else isn't going to get it somewhere else. And I want to make sure that everybody gets it. All right? So don't feel like you're interrupting me or anything like that. Let me know. I want to stop and make sure everybody understands it. Just a little bit, well, we're talking about the position of the onside foot, right? How you change this arc from this totally linear stance to this front foot forward stance, right? There's points all along here where you can decide where your most comfortable stance is. Do you do Pell work? Do I do Pell work?
Yes, sir.
Only like in the last 5 years.
Do you do what you're doing right now when you do your Pell work?
Yes. Yep. My Pell, I built a special Pell with, it's 3 bowling balls on chains hanging from the ceiling. From the bottom of my deck, actually. But I'll start the top bowling ball swinging, and I'll change my stance depending on where the bowling ball is and what angle I want to hit it at. The bowling ball, the nice thing about the bowling ball is it makes sure that I've got my shots edge on all the time. If I don't, it glances. Right? It teaches me precision. One of the things we talked about right in the beginning. Precision is the skill you need to develop. Power is important because it's in our rules, but we only need to be in a certain range of power. We don't need to develop massive power. But I'm going to get into that real quick. All right. So position of the onside foot, position of the offside foot is as important as your onside foot, okay? But it's kind of passive. If you get to this right foot forward, it's just a reverse of this, okay? There's no trick to it. But what I want you to be aware of is your offside foot needs to be kind of aligned in the direction of your movement. Your foot should be aligned parallel with your thigh. If you get too much like this, you can't move. If you get too much like this, I don't even know what you're doing. So that's Aikido. All right, so less stress on your knee, quicker movement of your foot if your leg and your foot are lined up straight. Any Olympic strip fencer will tell you. That's why they point their foot directly at them, because in this position, I can lift my foot and move it forward without having to shift all my weight back. If you turn your foot to the side, you can't move forward. This is what your hip moves. If you turn your foot away from your opponent, you have to shift back onto your back foot before you can move forward. That's just a mechanical truth of your body. Okay? Balance and movement are integral. Because where your balance is determines which way you can move. Right? You want your balance to be fairly neutral, so that you can move in any direction. But you tend to want your balance to be back onto your driving foot. Because again, traction is vital. Every dragster in the world uses rear-wheel drive. All the weight, everything is on the back because they need traction to move forward as fast as possible. Same with you. If you're moving forward, you need your weight on your back foot. Right? Does that make sense? Has anybody ever thought about it? You just realize it. So, weight on your back foot.
So, I understand the thought. I'm just going back to your
analogy originally with the runners. Why is it naturally in our head when we get ready to run, we do this?
Because you're trying to shift your balance towards where you're going. Okay? But look at an Olympic sprinter. He is down, you know, he's in blocks. Right. Even though those particular races where you start standing, you'll see them, they aren't all lean forward. They're down here. They're sitting down on their back leg to push forward. What I try and do with that is something that everybody can do without thinking about it. And it gives you the right distance for your feet. It's not so much the balance, but it's a good point and a good catch, actually. And there's nothing wrong with being forward if you're anticipating having to move back. Right? If I'm trying to draw a shot from an opponent, I'm trying to get into it.
Just an observation, something I think addresses your point, if I may. When you're doing the sprint, you've got most sprinters, it's different than our fighting footwork. So a sprinter is going to be forward, he's moving this leg, so he's bracing off this, and he's bringing this leg forward, which is a problem fighting because you're changing your attitude, right?
In the blocks, he's coming off his lead leg.
Right, so, but we don't want to step forward. I don't think it's a good idea to step forward with your back leg. So if I want to step forward, if I've got my weight on it, I can't step forward. I have to take the weight off, come back, and then step forward. So what we want to do, you need it back here so you can step like that, which is what you've been doing every time you step.
So if I'm trying to draw my opponent out, for instance, see what kind of shot he's got, I'm going to fight for about this much extra range, and I may put my head forward over my foot a little bit, right? So that when he throws that shot, I can push back out of range. So you want your weight to favor whatever foot you're driving with, okay? So, good balance is the key to controlled movement. Most bipedal locomotion means falling and catching yourself. That's how you learn to walk. Look at a toddler. That's how they walk. Every time. And mostly it's a run because they're just trying to keep their feet up with their body. Right? When you're fighting, you're doing the same thing. You just hope after 30 years or so you've gotten a little more control over it. So, yeah, well, you lose your teaching when there's alcohol. So you want to keep your weight between your feet, in general. That allows you the most flexibility in which direction you move. Most of our movements, as far as throwing blows in society, are rotational, not linear, rotational, because we are bringing our shoulders around. Every movement, almost, I mean, there's always an exception, but you're throwing a shot, you're throwing it like this. Right? I mean, so this rotation, again, requires that traction. Right? But now, we're twisting. Our feet still have to be anchored to the ground to twist. And when we throw a shot out of range, stepping into range, we're still starting that twisting movement with that back foot and using that same foot to bring the body forward in the range. All right? So that balance is important. You want that balance, you want your hips between your feet, and you want your center of balance over your hips. For the most part, okay? Another Ron also talks about sitting on a stool, right? Very good analogy. So you imagine from your stance, you're sitting down, you're going to sit down on like a milking stool or something. That will tell you where your balance is. But you want to regain that light tension, not the deep seat. You always want to have that kind of a balance as if you're going to sit down between your feet. Again, I favor the back foot a little bit, you can still do that. Right? Weight distribution is important. That rotational movement and keeping your body upright. Why is that important?
Balance, your center of gravity.
Balance, yes. There's another reason. Talk about that rotational movement. This is your axis of rotation. Okay? So you've got this axis of rotation. If your body's upright, your axis of rotation is like this. where you want. If you're leaning forward, your axis of rotation is now like this, right? You're having, now to throw a shot up, throw a shot at somebody's head, you've got to reach up. And that's engaging all your deltoids and stuff to do that. You don't need to do that. If you're fighting somebody tall, right? This is your axis. If you're fighting somebody tall, we got Ed. Who's your tallest guy?
Steven. Steven. Right over there.
Steven, all right, come here, Steven. But you can hide back there, huh? No. All right. See, now, if I'm just standing here straight, I can reach his head. I have to reach up, right? But if I can change my rotation, bring my hips forward a little bit, now my angle of rotation is like this. Where I want it to be. Unfortunately, this brings my leg out a little out from under my guard a little bit, so I got to be careful. Right? I'm supposed to be taking his leg, not the other way around. Right? That's, everybody takes your leg. Yeah. Okay, so that keeping that angle of rotation is important when you're fighting. Has everybody heard that before?